Zero Hedge is saying that the Bitcoin fair market value should be 250,000. Do you believe that fair market is whatever the market is, even if manipulated and unfair, if it never actually, quote, corrects? Perry, what I think is that M2 is not a good predictor of Bitcoin price action. I do not buy into that theory that the fair price of Bitcoin is actually 250 because it should follow M2. No, it doesn't have to follow M2. That's just a model, dude. I don't mean you, Perry. I mean Zero Hedge, whoever wrote that. It's like it's just a model, and the model can break down. It's like a friend of mine always likes to remind me when I quote all my models. He always says, "Listen, all models are wrong. Some are useful." That's actually a quote by some fund manager, I think, who said that. I don't know who said that. It's like a quote from someone, but actually, it's a very good quote, and I like to remind myself of that every now and then. Like all models are wrong. Some are useful. These liquidity models, the cosmic models, cycles model, they're all wrong to some extent. They're never perfect, but they are useful. I like to think that the models that I'm using here and that we're all sharing are useful. Does it mean they're always right? No, it doesn't. And M2 in particular, that always bothered me because M2 is not a good predictor of bull market tops. And let me show you. This is a great segue into what I wanted to show you here because I do want to show you this contrast between M2 and what I'm using so far, which is central bank the central bank liquidity. So I don't always have these because it clutters the chart. But here is M2. So here's the M2 chart. Maybe a lot going on with this chart, but I want to show you central bank liquidity, M2, and Bitcoin. You tell me which one is followed more closely. So this, let me zoom out a little bit. In order to do justice to this chart, we have to make some adjustments. So I was looking at it this morning, and I was like, oh, I gotta show this. So this is central bank liquidity. I'm gonna fit that to Bitcoin right there. There we go. That's a decent fit. Bit bigger. There we go. That's a pretty decent fit. So you tell me which one it's following. Notice that M2 and central bank liquidity, so M2 and CBL, they have not diverged until recent. This is only recent that M2 is doing one thing and CBL is doing M2 is going up and CBL is flatlining. In fact, if I hide the Bitcoin chart, doesn't make it easy. There we go. If I hide this, these two are usually highly correlated, but the moment M2 broke away from Bitcoin from CBL, Bitcoin did not follow M2 higher. It just continued to follow central bank liquidity. What I'm trying to say here is Bitcoin never followed M2, never. It just so happens that M2 and central bank liquidity were very tightly correlated over the past 3 years, but now they're starting to diverge. Guess which one Bitcoin is following? What? It's following the one that it's always followed, central bank liquidity, not M2. And here's more proof of that because I got the receipts. I have the receipts, you guys. Let me show this again. Boom. God, where's Bitcoin? There we go. Look at this. I'm going to show you the last bull market high. And you can see the same thing happening 4 years ago. This is not new. This is not like a new thing where it used to be that Bitcoin would follow M2 and then recently is following central bank liquidity. No. This is how the last bull market ended. Let me show you how it ended. Because and I found this out. I suspected that this was the case 4 years ago, but I did the proper studies about 6 weeks ago. I actually went in and I looked into this. And the data just jumped at me. It was obvious that Bitcoin is not following M2, and it was not following M2 4 years ago. Now, I need to restate that M2, which is this broad measure of money and credit, and central bank liquidity, they're usually very tightly correlated, usually, but they diverge at times. When they do diverge, Bitcoin does not follow M2. It follows the central bank stuff. And this is what happened. This is how the last bull market ended. So we have it there. And you can see that it's not as tight a correlation because this extremely close correlation. Let me change the color on this one. So we'll make this one red because it's wrong. We'll make it red. Boom. So M2 is red. All right, M2 is red. And now let me try and fit these. Let me try and fit these rallies so you can see. And the point I'm trying to make is going to become obvious in just a moment. There we go. So this is roughly what we had. This is a bull market top. There you go. That's bull top for your cycle top. So bull market top. This is in November. This is November like 9 or 10 of 2021. And back then, we have the central bank liquidity going sideways, and same thing that's happening now. Not exactly the same thing. It's similar, but exactly the same. The divergence between M2 and central bank liquidity is much wider now, but it rhymes. And M2 goes up. Technically speaking, the high in central bank liquidity, it takes place on December 8th, 1 month after Bitcoin topped out. The high in M2, well, it took place on June 22nd, 6 months into the bull market. In fact, by June 22nd, Ether had ended its bear market. That's how late M2 was compared to central bank liquidity. That's how late it was. It missed the whole bear market. So if you were following M2 and you're trading ETH, you're thinking, man, this thing is going to pick up at some point, right? Wrong. It missed the whole bear market. By the time M2 topped out, ETH bottomed. It wasn't even following M2. And the same thing is true now, by the way. If you look at M2 and ETH, we're going to look at it now just to get an update. No correlation. If you look at ETH and central bank liquidity, perfect correlation. In fact, again, I'm working on the proper math proofs that this is the indicator to use because I think I can prove it mathematically. A lot of people are using correlation, they're using linear regressions, or that's not how you do this. So you need to take some time to prove these relationships. But visually, hey, 2 sets of eyes usually works way better than an algorithm. Visually, it's clear that they follow central bank liquidity, not M2. So to answer your question, Perry, Bitcoin never followed M2, never has, never will, probably. What it follows is central bank liquidity. And just like in 2021, where the market ended as the growth of central bank liquidity stopped, because this is kind of a takeaway for me, when the growth in central bank liquidity stopped in December of 2021, the bull market ended. M2 continued doing M2 things, as Camel likes to say. I love that saying. So it kept going up. It didn't matter. It kept growing. It didn't matter. This is why Raoul Pal missed the last side. This is why he tweeted in November of 2020. He said, it's going to continue. ETH at 5,000, it looks undervalued. I don't know this for a fact. And I love Raoul, by the way. This is not to criticize him or anything. Well, this is constructive criticism, actually. If he ever watches this, I don't think he will. But if he does, constructive criticism, M2 doesn't work. It never has. It won't. It didn't work this cycle. It didn't work in the last cycle. It just doesn't work.